Well, hey, why not do yet another part of the top 25 worst WCW pay-per-views, according to me. According to me, mind you. And I'm not going to list every single match. I'm not going to list every single thing I've done. Entire WCW pay-per-view retrospective series, as I've said in the previous video, as I've said in this video, as I said in other stuff. And if you've been following my channel or following me on Twitter at Reborn Again, REBOURNE again, then you know that I've been doing this for a while. I love WCW. I love pointing out their great parts, but also they got some downfalls. And here we go. So I covered my honorable mentions and 25 through 17. So here we go. I'm at least going to cover 16 to 10, possibly 9. If I cover all 16, then great. But it's going to go no more than 15 minutes. Anyway, number 16, Uncensored 1995. Pretty much putting this on there because you had literally a King of the Road match, which was the Blacktop Bully, Barry Darsow, who was Smash and Demolition, and then Hole-in-One Barry Darsow. That did not go over so well. He was a golfer. Yeah, that was shit. That was later, after this. He was also the Repo Man. He had been a lot of gimmicks, some that had good success, some that were nothing. And he was versus Dustin Rhodes, who later became Goldust. This was a match where, okay, they had a bit of a feud, and they were going to fight in the back of a truck, in a truck trailer. Okay, sure, cool. Blacktop Bully, truck, makes sense. They're going to be parked somewhere fighting in the back of a truck. No. They're in the back of a moving truck trailer, cage truck trailer, with bales of hay and stuff, going at least 40 miles an hour. Around, now mind you, stretches of straight road, but also some curves, and I'm thinking, this is a horrible idea. Now, that match was just not any good. None of the matches on there were any good, by the way. But that's, like, the main one that sticks out in my mind. I mean, obviously, there was other stuff. There was stuff that they did with Hogan, and, they did with Hogan and a bunch of guys. Just a lot of stuff that was just shit. But the King of the Road match in particular is, like, one where I'm just thinking, well, that was really dumb. That was a great idea. That was the idea. That was like pretty much what showed that the uncensored pay-per-views just were not going to be any good from WCW. That as good a talent as they had, this is not going to go well. And yeah, Uncensored 95. In part because of the King of the Road match, but a lot because of some of the card. Not all that good. Anyway, now to Sold Out 2000. By 2000, WCW was pretty much off the fucking rails. I mean, Starrcade 99 was really done to no success. There was a whole lot of weird stuff. You had Bret Hart that was taken out due to injury because of a misplaced mule kick by Goldberg. So he's not on there. They had a WCW title tournament that built up for this to crown a new champion. The finals was Sid Vicious versus Chris Benoit. And okay, they were going to give Chris Benoit the title, even though he wanted to leave the company. They gave him the title, and he still left the company. So they had to have another. They had to have another tournament or another, WCW champion crowned soon after this. And then you had Kevin Nash beat Terry Funk. Yes, Kevin Nash, who was the younger guy in this feud, beat Terry Funk for the commissionership of WCW, I believe. And then, let's see, you had Kidman versus Dean Malenko, which went nowhere. Dean Malenko left the company after that night. So did Saturn. So did Benoit. So did Guerrero. The pay-per-view was just a mess. You had, I believe, Vampiro wrestle a match, and then he got to beat up Ed Ferrara, who was playing Oklahoma, the rip-off of the mocking of the JR character, which was a horrible thing. I mean, it proved just what a piece of shit Ed Ferrara was, at least as far as doing that. That was pretty crappy. But then, yes, Sold Out 2000 was just bad. It just showed that the company had lost complete control of everything. It was absolutely dreadful. It was fucking horrible, and Sold Out 2000 was just bad. It was just bad. There really wasn't one redeeming quality I can think of. Even though Sid and Benoit had a good match, it's really hard for me to watch a Benoit match after what he did. Anyway, Sold Out 2000 was just really, really bad. Now, Halloween Havoc 1991. I'm mainly including this for the Chamber of Horrors match, which had Sting, Cactus Jack, the Diamond Stud, a.k.a. the future Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, the Steiner Brothers, Vader, I believe, and Abdul the Butcher. You had Abdul the Butcher get fried in an electric chair in the middle of the giant Thunderdome cage. Sure, why not? But what was even funnier is during the whole time, there's this giant mechanical switch, as if there's any other kind. Giant, novelty switch where it's like, it was supposed to be where, it's turned on, but it kept going to the on, position, or kept going back on, off, on. It kept flipping or whatever, and the camera kept shooting the thing at the same time. So Dusty Rhodes had even said on the Legends of Wrestling thing, this whole idea, this concept of it was not playing out as well as I had thought. So yeah, that was pretty shitty. But 91 just was not, this edition of Halloween Havoc still was not very good anyway. Chamber of Horrors notwithstanding, even if that hadn't happened, this pay-per-view still wouldn't have been that good, but Chamber of Horrors lands it on the list, because that, and the pacing of the pay-per-view just was not very good. So now we move on to Bash at the Beach 1995. It's taking place on a fucking beach. It's a wrestling ring, elevated, taking place on a beach. They had a lifeguard match between Randy Savage and Ric Flair with, basically a lumberjack match, but they were dressed up as lifeguards. It was shit. The best match was, a triple threat tag team match with Harlem Heat, the Nasty Boys, and I forget who the other team was. I think it was Steven Regal, a.k.a. William Regal, and Bobby Eaton. I think it was that. I might be confusing that with another match. All I know is it was shit. And the only good part of that entire pay-per-view was Bobby Heenan talking about Randy Savage's dad, Angelo Poffo, where he's with his cane, in the crowd or whatever, in the very front row, and Randy Savage gives him, gives him props, shakes his hand, hugs him or whatever, and says he's gonna, points he's gonna go beat up Ric Flair, and Bobby Heenan says, with Angelo or whatever, he's been here all day. His cane's been stuck in the sand. He's just been going in a circle. That's the type of great commentary you would get from Bobby Heenan. It's a lot better when he says it. It's not so funny when I say it. Bobby Heenan was a tremendous commentator. But the whole idea is just the pay-per-view is just shit. And then it was, Hogan versus Vader in a cage match where Hogan buries Vader. I mean, practically buries him. It's just bad. It was just stupid. It was just a horrible pay-per-view. Just taking place on a beach, which is bad. It was just awful. It was just awful. And now we go to Uncensored 96, which admittedly was better than Uncensored 95. Kinda. Wait, no, it wasn't, because I'm ranking it higher, and oh wait, there's a reason why I'm ranking it higher. The Alliance to End Hulkamania Doomsday Cage match, 3 cages, small, big, and a cage covering a ring at the entranceway. So yeah, all you people that paid for the tickets to view the ring that's actually there in the middle, great job, because good luck viewing that thing over there. So that's basically what happened. The card itself wasn't all that great anyway leading up to that. But then it's Hogan and Randy Savage versus the Dungeon of Doom, which included people like Lex Luger, Ming, the Barbarian, Kevin Sullivan, and also included parts of the Horsemen like Hogan, or not Hogan, but and Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and people like that. Okay, cool, you got this kind of stuff. And they also had let's see. They had Z Gangster, which was Zeus from the No Holds Barred movie. I don't remember the actor's name, but he was great as president of the Fifth Element. And then also you had the Ultimate Solution. I don't want to say he was the final solution because that sounds really wrong, and that's what the Warlord called himself before he became the Warlord in WWE. So yeah, that was just really, really bad. And it's like the idea that as good as Hogan and Savage, well, Savage was better than Hogan, but as good as those two guys were, fighting through 9 guys or whatever was pretty ridiculous. And it cemented the beginning of Luger's face turn just mere months after he turned heel and joined the Dungeon of Doom, when he inadvertently hit one of the members of his team with the loaded forearm that he had, the metal plate in his forearm that he had from the motorcycle accident. But it was just bad. It was just they wrestled through the one cage, through the next cage, through the door in the second cage, down into the stairs where they're fighting in the ring, and then they fight back to the cage. I don't know how the match is supposed to end, but Hogan and Savage end up winning the thing. It's just absolute carnage, in the worst way, because it's just bad. It was just horrible. Uncensored 96 ended on a really bad. It wasn't a very good pay-per-view, and it wasn't very good there. The only decent match they had was Sting and Booker T against the Road Warriors. And even that wasn't that good. But yeah, it was just really bad. It was just the whole Doomsday Cage Alliance and the Hulkamania match was just bad. So anyway, now we're going to go to Bash at the Beach 1999. Look, okay, this had a junkyard match. A bunch of mid-carders fighting in a junkyard with flaming cars, and oh yeah, if you don't get out of there soon enough, we're going to blow up the whole damn thing. That was pretty much the idea. They were setting off explosive charges here and there. It was bad. I mean, it's just, that's what lands it on the list. I mean, besides the just horribly mismanaged card, the junkyard match lands it on here because it was just bad. Even though Randy Savage won the title here, he would lose it to Hogan the next day. So that was really great because, I mean, even though Randy Savage wasn't the performer that he was at this point, he had suffered a severe knee injury a year before and really hadn't wrestled a ton. He still would have been a better champion than Hogan, but Hogan had to make sure that he got that title right off of Savage. God, no wonder Savage would have hated Hogan. I don't know. I don't know if he did. I don't know if they made up. I don't know. I don't know if Savage is the type to hold grudges, but I'm just saying I wouldn't have blamed Savage if he hated Hogan because of that. But yes, Bash at the Beach 99 just for the junkyard match alone lands it on here because it was bad. It was a terrible match. Slamboree 2000, Ready to Rumble cage match, three-tiered cage match. That's really it. That's really all I need to tell you about why this wasn't any good. This was during the Vince Russo era of WCW, where even if Russo wasn't the sole booker at this point, it was just really, really bad. I mean, it was like whether he did it, whether Bischoff did it, or somebody from the goddamn moon did it. Whoever thought it was a good idea to have this Ready to Rumble cage match, it was terrible. And so you had David Arquette as the world champion. That was a terrible idea anyway. And then he screws over DDP, his friend. Jeff Jarrett wins the title. Okay, whatever, cool. Kind of really guess I should have seen that coming. Not that I cared because the WCW title changed hands way too many times. It was really bad. But then you had Canyon and Mike Awesome fighting on top of that cage as they were battling up there. Canyon was trying to help DDP. And this is in the same building where Owen Hart died, by the way. Mike Awesome hurls Canyon off the cage, kind of trying to do it like what WWE did with Mankind a year and a half, or nearly 2 years before. The problem is Mankind at least fell through the announcer's table. Now, I'm not saying that was a safer fall, but he fell through something. Canyon just landed on the ramp, which still, rigged or not, couldn't have felt good landing into it. I'm sure Canyon had back problems for a while, but that was pretty bad for him and was a really bad end to a pretty shitty pay-per-view. And now, Starrcade 1994. Okay, so let's just be honest. Hogan coming to WCW was fine. It was fine. It was fine. It got WCW a lot of buzz. And he had a great match with Ric Flair at Bash at the Beach 94. Unfortunately, after that, there really wasn't much to it because Hogan then, it was reverting to all the red and yellow stuff. The title reign wasn't all that great. He wasn't on every single pay-per-view. He was on some of the pay-per-views before they started running more, and he had a deal where he didn't appear on every single pay-per-view until later when he was getting more of a payoff. But yes, by Starrcade 94, as I mentioned about Halloween Havoc 94 in my previous video, he was going to face the Butcher, who is brother Bruce the Barber Beefcake, his best friend, in the main event. Yes, Bruce the Barber Beefcake got to main event of Starrcade. I mean, how shit is that? Brutus Beefcake, who couldn't even wrestle his way out of a paper bag most of the damn time, at least at, post-parasailing accident, which, good thing that he survived that. Certainly wouldn't want him to get injured any worse, and certainly wouldn't want him to be able to have a living. The guy was still never a great wrestler. And this proved it. It was a sloppy main event, and you had Sting versus Avalanche, Earthquake, and you had other matches that just weren't any good. Hogan and the Butcher main eventing this was just bad, and then you had Hogan and Savage posing for a few minutes. It was just terrible. It was terrible. Starrcade 94 is one of the worst Starrcades ever, but not the worst Starrcade. I'll get to those in my next video. Thanks for watching, folks.